It's July 4th here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with these stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with South Korean government's key economic policies for the latter half of the year. The government will allow tax breaks for companies that increase shareholder returns, as well as a financial package to help vulnerable groups, all in pursuit of the country's long-term growth. The wife of the driver who claims that his car suddenly accelerated in a deadly car accident that took 9 lives has told the police that the car's brakes didn't work at the time of the accident. Funerals of the victims are taking place this morning. The White House denies speculation that Biden is stepping out of the November presidential election race, but the pressure to do so is mounting, with a second Democratic lawmaker calling on Biden to exit the race. The South Korean government has rolled out its economic blueprint for the next 6 months. Now, the ultimate goal is making the lives of ordinary people better in a way they can feel. Lee Soo-jin starts us off.
The South Korean government plans in the second half of the year to focus on improving the lives of vulnerable groups as it aims to continue its economic growth momentum.
이렇게 성장률을 비롯한 거시 지표는 눈에 띄게 개선되고 있습니다만 아직 그 온기가 민생 경제의 활력으로 이어지지 않아 안타까운 마음이 있습니다. 효과가 나타나는 시차를 줄이면서 민생의 구조적, 근본적 문제를 해결해 나가야 합니다.
The Finance Ministry on Wednesday announced its economic policy direction for the latter half of the year, where it revised its economic growth projection from 2.2% to 2.6% for 2024. This upward revision was mostly due to a strong growth forecast for exports thanks to increased demand for AI as well as semiconductors. An inflation rate for this year is expected to ease to 2.6%. This comes as data from Statistics Korea on Tuesday showed that the Consumer Price Index, a key gauge of inflation, rose by 2.4% in June compared to the same month the year before. This is the lowest figure seen in 11 months, inching closer to the target inflation of 2%. But the government, which typically bases the direction of its economic policies on these projections, said that while the newly revised projections are promising, vulnerable groups are yet to feel that the economy is getting better.
But because the recovery speed varies across sectors due to high inflation and interest rates, small business owners still feel that the economy is struggling.
To help small business owners, the government will spend 25 trillion won, or nearly $18 billion to provide financial support, business growth and recovery opportunities, as well as a one-stop platform that allows them to more easily access necessary information. According to one expert, the most helpful policy is likely to be the measures that are targeted towards easing the burden of high interest rates.
I think the most effective way is postponing interest rate payment to banks. In terms of the moral hazard problem, it is very difficult to decrease size of the money that borrowed from the banks. But instead, there is small room for banks and for medium and small-sized companies to delay their interest rate payment.
The government will also help small business owners expand digitally to accelerate their growth and provide incentives for those who wish to start new businesses. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
And local companies will also be looked after so that the country sees long-term growth. There'll be tax incentives for those that enhance their corporate value and expand shareholder returns. Choi Min-jung with details.
South Korea has unveiled measures to foster the growth of new industries. The Finance Ministry revealed a roadmap on Wednesday that aims to incentivize companies that enhance their corporate value and increase shareholder returns. This will be done by providing a range of tax incentives and benefits. First, the government plans to reduce corporate taxes by 5% for companies that increase shareholder returns exceeding 5% over the span of 3 years. Companies can do this by increasing dividends or canceling treasury stocks. This applies to all companies, regardless of size. The government will also lower income tax rates for the shareholders of companies that have high corporate value. Accordingly, if the dividend income is 12 million won, the tax burden will be reduced by 100,000 won. If the dividend income is 22 million won, the tax burden will be reduced by 200,000 won. The government is implementing the new regulations temporarily for 3 years, but they will first need to be passed by the National Assembly. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
So South Korea's economy is right on track with strong export growth and stable inflation. President Yoon Suk-yeol said so himself on Monday. And it's only looking like being better in the latter half of the year. We're joined by Professor Lee Seon this morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
The Finance Ministry has raised its forecast for economic growth for South Korea this year from 2.2% to 2.6%. Professor, the question is this achievable growth?
Actually, the growth forecast revision of this 0.4 percentage point is mostly based on the recovery in exports, and it is driven by sustained demand for semiconductor globally and supported by expanding AI services and cloud server businesses. The recovery, however, will be uneven as domestic demand will remain fragile amid the high interest rate environment. One of the key risks to the optimistic forecast is that the domestic demand could strengthen only gradually, strained by household debt and weak construction sector.
And it's not just the South Korean government. International organizations have also raised the forecast for South Korea. So all the figures, both at home and abroad, indicate the South Korean economy is doing all right. But that isn't directly leading to improving people's livelihoods. Why is that?
So while the overall economic forecast is on the positive side, the economic situation for ordinary people may remain very challenging. High inflation is causing a delay in the recovery of consumer spending. In particular, cost of living crisis still remains for many vulnerable households. High household debt, along with stagnant real estate market, weigh on the Korean economy as well. So the recovery driven by the export sector will take time to be felt by ordinary consumers.
Right, so high inflation is something people living in Korea can all relate to, and what point out as one of the most serious concerns at the moment. Then I have to ask you, when will it be finally tamed to the point where we don't have to worry about, let's say, going grocery shopping?
Inflation is expected to come down gradually to the Bank of Korea's target level of 2% by the end of next year. But to most of the household, what is felt is the relative price level of their consumption basket. Obviously, inflation is an increase in price level, so any positive inflation rate number means the price level is still rising. So the average level of prices continues to increase, even though the rate of inflation has fallen from the previous years. So most people are still suffering from the escalated price level of their consumption basket due to the accumulation of higher inflation rate for about 2 years.
Professor Lee, let's talk about the economic blueprint that was rolled out by the government yesterday. President Yoon pointed out that small business owners who are hit hard by the pandemic are still, struggling to get back on their feet. This time, the government will pour $18 billion into assisting them. How are the plans different this time? Are they more customized?
So for small businesses and self-employed, the government announced that it will provide policy loans with extended repayment periods with a slightly lower interest rate, while seeking policy measures to lower fixed costs such as utility fees and rents. And the package also includes support for the digital transformation for small businesses, tailored to the specific needs by industry and by the size of the firms. The government plans to provide smart devices and customer management services software, which will also align well with their individual needs.
So lots of plans that are detailed this time. Then from an expert's point of view, will the plans actually help them this time? What's your take on this?
So due to the very low barriers to entry, the share of the self-employed is relatively high in South Korea compared to the OECD average, and business closures for some of the non-profitable firms is a natural process and may help improve economy-wide productivity. One of the policy measures included in the package is a second chance policy that enables bankrupt entrepreneurs to restart. The government plans to expand the scope of debt restructuring and increase the scale of the New Start Fund to strengthen recovery support for the vulnerable small business owners. And I think this plan will help improve firm dynamism, promoting innovation and boosting economic-wide productivity.
Hopefully they will work. All right, Professor Lee-Soyan, thank you so much for your time and insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
No immediate signs have been detected that the car which took 9 lives in Monday's accident suddenly accelerated, as the driver has insisted. Now, funerals of the victims are being held this morning. Our Park Kwon-woo has the details.
The funerals of the 9 victims of the deadly car accident near Seoul City Hall Station on Monday are taking place Thursday morning following their reposal at Seoul National University Hospital, the National Medical Center, and Severance Hospital funeral halls. The Seoul Metropolitan Police Agency, during a briefing Wednesday, gave an update on their investigation, saying no skid marks were found at the accident site, which could have been a major clue to whether the driver suddenly accelerated or not. This was a correction made after an hour when the police initially said there were skid marks found at the crash site, but they turned out to be from an oil leak. The police confirmed that video footage showed that the driver began accelerating from the parking lot of a nearby hotel before the accident. They also submitted data from 6 CCTV cameras, as well as information from the car's event data recorder and dash cam, to the National Forensic Service for investigation in order to determine whether the car suddenly accelerated, which is the driver's claim. The driver's wife, who was the only passenger in the car, told police that the car's brakes were not working at the time of the crash. The 68-year-old driver, who is currently in hospital, will face further investigation once he recovers from his injuries. 7 pedestrians were also wounded in the fatal collision. Park Kwon-woo, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden had reportedly told an ally that he was considering whether to continue his bid for a second term in November. The White House on Wednesday denied such a story. Lee Seung-ja has more.
A report by the New York Times Wednesday led to a wave of speculation that U.S. President Joe Biden was considering dropping out of running for a second term. Headlined, Biden told ally that he is weighing whether to continue in the race. It seemed as if Biden was unsure if he could carry on after his subpar performance during a televised debate with Donald Trump. The article, however, was misleading, with no reference to Biden explicitly saying he would not run again. Rather, the report was based on a conversation between Biden and an unnamed key ally, who was quoted as saying that the president knew he needed to quickly reassure the public he can still do the job. That did not stop the speculation, leading the White House to reiterate that the president is still working towards his goal of staying in office for another 4 years.
All I can say is the president is moving forward. He's moving forward as being president. He's moving forward with his campaign, as his campaign has been very, very clear about that. That's what I can speak to, and that's what I can say, and that is the president's focus. The president's focus is how does he continue to do that work, and anything else that we're hearing or that's being reported is absolutely false.
However, pressure continues within the Democratic Party as another Democrat lawmaker called on Biden to resign. Speaking to the New York Times in an interview, Congressman Raul Grijalva, who represents Arizona, said he would support Biden if he remains at the top of the ticket, but said he believes the party should select a new nominee. The remarks come just one day after Lloyd Doggett became the first sitting Democrat lawmaker to call on Biden to withdraw from the race. An opinion poll conducted by the New York Times and Siena College also showed Trump's approval rating widening after last week's debate. Among likely voters, 49% said they would vote for Trump, as opposed to 43% of respondents who said they would still vote for Biden. This marks a 3 percentage point upswing for Trump from a week earlier. Additionally, among registered voters, 49% said they would vote for the former president, while 41% said they would vote for the incumbent. 74% of respondents also said that Biden is too old for the job, up 5 percentage points since the debate. 이승재, Arirang News.
Over on Wall Street, both the S&P 500 and the Nasdaq saw more record highs on Wednesday, while the Dow Jones Industrial Index ended flat. The tech-heavy Nasdaq ended trading at 18,188.30, up 159.54 points, or 0.88% from the previous trading day, to reach a fresh record high. The S&P 500 also ended with another record high, closing at 5,537.02, up over 28 points from the previous day. Now, economists say the continued positive momentum on Wall Street comes on the back of signs that a rate cut might happen in September. A new agricultural technology, water-cooled air conditioning heating system, is in the limelight. The technology allows the growing and harvesting of strawberries even in midsummer and radically lowers greenhouse operational costs. Cha Yoon-kyung has the story.
This is a strawberry farm in Pyeongtaek, Gyeonggi-do Province. Farmers usually finish harvesting strawberries at the end of May. However, a strawberry harvest is in full swing here in June. The secret is a water-cooled air conditioning and heating system, which makes it possible to extend the harvest season for strawberries by using awning screens and sprinklers after setting up a water-cooled air conditioning and heating system.
The heat island effect happens in the house. Hot air cannot move to where cold air collects, but the cold air rises as it gets hotter.
Another benefit is that farmers can save on the huge costs of using standard air conditioning and heating. This new system utilizes underground water, which is always around 15 degrees Celsius. Therefore, this new technology is much cheaper than the existing one, which uses air or geothermal heat as a heat source.
Underground water is efficient with its year-round temperature, making huge amount of deviation both in summer and in winter. The temperature goes up to 35 degrees in summer. It makes 20 degrees of deviation.
According to the research of Korea Agriculture Technology Promotion Agency, the savings on costs are between 70% to 90% compared to the standard system. Harvesting strawberries until July using the water-cooled air conditioning system is now possible. Farmers can set up the water-cooled air conditioning facility as long as they can drill for underground water.
Biggest problem for farmers in Korea is the high cost of air conditioning and heating in their greenhouses. We look for companies that have the technology and products which can cut costs dramatically and support them.
The water-cooled air conditioning and heating system was developed 4 years ago, and about 600 have been set up around 70 cities and counties nationwide. The number of farms using the system is expected to rise in the future because of the dramatic cost saving. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
Good morning. I'm Kim Seong, and now we turn over to the world now. Russian President Vladimir Putin hailed relations with China, saying they are at their best period in history as he met with the Chinese leader Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization summit in Kazakhstan on Wednesday. Both Putin and Xi praised the group, which includes Central Asian countries, as well as India, Iran and Pakistan, for its expanding membership, and emphasized stable Sino-Russian relations amidst regional tensions. Putin also said those relations are not aimed against anyone, adding that both countries are acting in the interests of our peoples. The SCO, a regional security bloc founded by Russia and China 20 years ago, is also set to welcome Belarus as a new member of the organization on Thursday. This year's two-day summit in Kazakh capital Astana, titled Strengthening Multilateral Dialogue, has security and stability at the top of the agenda. The powerful hurricane Beryl hit Jamaica on Wednesday with a combination of a life-threatening storm surge and destructive winds. The Category 4 hurricane had already killed at least 7 people and caused significant damage in the Southeast Caribbean. The storm is one of the strongest to strike Jamaica in recent years. It reached Category 5 at one point, making it the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record in the Atlantic. The death toll from Hurricane Beryl rose to at least 7 on Tuesday, as a total of 3 people were reported dead in Venezuela. The hurricane is expected to make landfall in the Cayman Islands from Wednesday night into Thursday, with a hurricane warning also in effect for parts of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula. Taiwan's coastguard on Wednesday asked China to release a Taiwanese fishing boat and its 5 crew members detained by Chinese coastguard late on Tuesday night. According to the spokesperson of the China's coastguard, the fishing vessel violated the fishing moratorium regulations and trawled illegally within the prohibited area, leading to the seizure of the Taiwanese boat, which is now being held at Waitou, a port in southeast China. The fishing boat, Tachiman 88, with two Taiwanese and 3 Indonesian crew members, has also been accused of damaging marine fishery resources and operating during China's annual summertime fishing ban from May to August. The Taiwan Coast Guard administration said it dispatched 3 vessels to rescue the fishing boat soon after it was intercepted, but was blocked by multiple Chinese boats and told not to interfere. Chinese authorities have seized and detained 17 Taiwan-registered ships since 2003 for fishing during the summertime ban. Now to Peru, where a runaway bull caused chaos among pedestrians and drivers in the streets of Santa Anita, a town to the east of Lima, on Monday. While no injuries were reported, security camera footage showed a bull charging against unsuspecting cars and pedestrians in the street, knocking over a cyclist. Local authorities showed up soon after and captured the bull. The owner, who later appeared to retrieve him, reportedly said he will pay for all damages caused by the bull.
Good morning. We have a monsoon rain in the forecast. Well, you won't need an umbrella through lunchtime, but it will start to rain late this afternoon from the west, spreading to the rest of central regions. Then it will rain nationwide by late tonight. And it's forecast to rain down hard overnight, dropping 20 to 50 millimeters an hour on central regions. So please park your car tonight wisely. However, it's forecast to be swelteringly hot during the day, with heat advisories in place for many southern parts of the country under sunnier skies. Central regions will also notice a rise in highs, but under cloudy skies. Muggy air, though, will make it feel hotter. And it was a rough night for those in East Coast areas, with overnight temperatures staying above 25 degrees Celsius. And this afternoon, Daegu gets up to 34 degrees, Gyeongju at 35 degrees Celsius. Now, monsoon rain takes a break tomorrow afternoon, but brace for nationwide downpours this weekend. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Friday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.